The Little Match Girl. One wintry Christmas Eve, a poor little girl wandered through the cold, empty streets of a large town, trying to sell matches. Snowflakes fell between the grand buildings that towered high above and covered the ground like a big white blanket. The match girl's bare feet left the smallest of footprints, and her tiny shadow travelled with her across the splendid shop fronts, all filled with beautiful presents and sparkling decorations. As she came upon some warmly lit houses, she stopped at one of the windows and peeked inside. She gasped in wonder at the splendid Christmas tree covered in lights and at the pretty gifts below waiting to be unwrapped. "I've never seen anything more beautiful." There were children too, eating Christmas treats and playing games by the fire. As she stared into the flames, she remembered her dear dead grandmother and how they once had beautiful Christmases together. But as the snow swirled around and the wind blew cold, the little girl grew sad, for she knew there could be no more such times for her. She walked on, hoping to find someone to buy her matches. But everyone was indoors enjoying Christmas with their families. She looked at her matches. Perhaps they could make her warm. Her frozen hand took a match from her bundle and she struck it against the wall. It lit up like a sparkler and danced and flickered in the breeze. She looked deep into the centre of the flame, and as the shadows played on the walls around her, the little girl soon forgot how cold she was. For there, in the middle of the match's glow, she saw a big, brightly burning stove. Soon the glow of the stove made her cheeks rosy. But even more heartwarming was the sight of her grandmother coming towards her. The little match girl was thrilled. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew out the flame and everything disappeared. Quickly, the little girl grasped another match in her shivering hands and struck it against the wall. As the match burst into flame, its light flickered against the wall like a shimmering curtain. The little girl rubbed her eyes, sure she was seeing things. "Do I dare peek behind?" She pulled back the curtain and gasped with delight. There was her grandmother standing beside a glorious Christmas feast. Her grandmother opened her arms in welcome. But just as the little girl was about to run into the room, this match too suddenly went out, leaving nothing but the grey, damp wall in front of her. Then she heard the sounds of laughter from a nearby house. If only she could be as warm and happy as those children. She took out the longest match in the bunch and held it against the wall. Perhaps this one will last just long enough. As she looked deep into its flame, she saw an enormous Christmas tree, covered in hundreds of Christmas candles. The tree glittered with tinsel and shimmering balls. It was even more spectacular than the one she had seen through the window of the house. But best of all, there was her grandmother, holding out her hand for the little girl to take. Enchanted, the little girl reached out in response. But just as their hands were about to touch, the match burnt to the end and the flame flickered out. The little girl was almost in tears. Would she ever see her grandmother once more? At that moment, a single star shot across the night sky. The little girl was cheered. She knew that shooting stars were the souls of loved ones passing overhead. It must be a sign that her grandmother was very close. Just one more match, then we'll surely be together. Sure enough, as the light of the match grew brighter, her grandmother's beaming face appeared. This time, though, the little girl was determined not to let her disappear again. She lit match after match and placed them in the snow around her. Soon she was surrounded by a gleaming pool of light. It was brighter than all the Christmas candles in the world. And in the middle of it, waiting to welcome her, stood her beloved grandmother. At last they could be united. Overjoyed, the little girl ran straight into her grandmother's arms. As the light from the matches faded, they rose together high into the sky. There they joined all the other sparkling stars. And that night, the little match girl's smile was brighter than all the lights that flickered in all the shop windows and all the houses below. She and her grandmother would now be together forever, and the little match girl would never be cold or hungry again.